Jungkook couldn't respond with words. His reply muffled against Jimin's neck as he tightened his grip on his waist, almost desperate, clinging to him like he'd disappear otherwise. The way Jimin's hands carted through his hair, almost tender, gentle, made his chest ache. A sharp pang of something he refused to name shooting through him. He just held him closer, his breath coming in harsh, uneven pants. He felt raw, exposed, vulnerable. It was terrifying and perfect. The way Jungkook clung to him, so fiercely possessive, yet vulnerable at the same time, sent a surge of protectiveness through Jimin, a fierce, almost primal response to that hint of vulnerability. He cradled him close, his hands roaming slowly over the expanse of bare skin beneath his palms, reassuring, comforting, as if to say, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." He leaned in, lips brushing gently over his shoulder before pressing a soft kiss to the sensitive skin just beneath his ear. "You're safe with me," he whispered. Jungkook stiffened for half a second at the words, too soft, too tender in the wreckage of their ruthless world, before melting completely against Jimin. With a shuddering exhale, his fingers dug into Jimin's hips, hard enough to bruise, his voice rough, but quieter now. "Don't say shit like that." But the way his lips brushed Jimin's pulse point, slow, almost reverent, betrayed him. And Jimin, he just held him tighter. This was surrender, and neither of them cared. Jimin smiled against Jungkook's skin, lips tracing the shell of his ear, before whispering, soft enough that only they could hear. "Too bad. I'll say it as much as I want." His hands slid up Jungkook's back, fingertips pressing into the tension coiled there, until he felt the other man's breathing deepen, his weight sinking heavier against him. The fight had drained out of him, replaced by something quieter, something fragile and real. "You're safe with me." He repeated, firmer this time, "always." And when Jungkook's grip tightened like he wanted to protest, wanted to deny how much he needed to hear it, Jimin just kissed him silent, because some truth didn't need words, because this was theirs. The way Jimin repeated those words with that quiet, firm conviction was almost Jungkook's undoing. The stubborn part of him wanted to resist, to push back, to say he didn't need that kind of reassurance, that he was strong enough to handle anything the world threw at him. But the part that craved safety, craved reassurance, won out. He buried his face in Jimin's neck and didn't say a word, his fingers digging into Jimin's hips, hard enough to bruise, his body shuddering against Jimin, like he was holding on for dear life. "Ya Jian Jungkook." Jimin's voice was suddenly sharp, playfully scolding as he pinched Jungkook's waist, breaking the tension, with a mischievous glint in his eyes. "You're gonna leave fingerprints in my skin at this rate." He tilted his head, smirk returning full force as he flicked Jungkook's forehead lightly. And stop sulking. "You look like a kicked puppy. It's embarrassing." But his hands stayed tangled in Jungkook's hair, fingers scratching gently at his scalp, because some habits, even ruthless mafia bosses, couldn't break. Jungkook immediately scowled at the pinch to his waist, but But just as it was about to turn into a full-blown glare, Jimin's voice had him rolling his eyes instead. "I'm not sulking," he shot back, voice gruff. His grip on Jimin's hips did ease a bit, though, his thumbs rubbing slow circles against the skin beneath his hands as he muttered, asterisk, asterisk, "and I'm not a puppy, you ass." Asterisk. Jimin burst out laughing, the sound bright and unguarded, a rare thing in their world of shadows and blood. He tugged Jungkook's hair playfully, eyes crinkling at the edges. "Could have fooled me," he teased, poking Jungkook's pouting bottom lip. "Look at this, full-blown puppy mode. Should I get you a chew toy?" Asterisk. His grin widened as Jungkook's scowl deepened, adorably ineffective when he was still pressed flush against him, fingers absent-mindedly tracing idle patterns on Jimin's waist. Some things never changed, and Jimin wouldn't have it any other way. Jungkook's scowl morphed into a downright murderous glare, except for the way his lips twitched, betraying the urge to smile. He retaliated by biting Jimin's finger lightly where it poked his mouth, holding it between his teeth with a warning growl. "Keep talking." Asterisk, asterisk, he muttered around Jimin's finger, voice dripping with fake menace. Asterisk, asterisk, "and I'll make you regret it." Asterisk. His hands slid lower, slow, deliberate, digging into the curve of Jimin's ass with a possessive squeeze, because if Jimin wanted to play, Jungkook would win. Asterisk. Jimin's breath caught at the sharp scrape of teeth against his finger, a shiver running down his spine at the possessive growl that rumbled through the other man's chest. Asterisk. His eyes widened in mock shock at the dark promise, the challenge clear in his own gaze. He moved his index finger in Jungkook's mouth, slowly sliding it between his lips, his breath catching at the heat that flared in his gut as Jungkook's tongue instinctively flicked out. The sound that left Jimin was half gasp, half moan. Asterisk. Big words let out a low hum at the sound of Jimin's voice, breaking mid-taunt, satisfaction flaring hot in his veins at the effect he could so easily bring out in the other man. He nipped at the finger in his mouth, tongue swirling around it with deliberate slowness, gaze darkening at the way Jimin's eyes fluttered shut for a split second. "You always doubt me, Park." Asterisk. He leaned in close, voice a low purr against Jimin's ear. "Wanna see what happens when I keep my promises?" Jimin's breath caught again as his finger was bitten, as Jungkook's tongue curled around it in a slow, deliberate motion that sent heat shooting straight down his spine. He swallowed hard at that rough, low whisper against his ear, the rough edge to it igniting sparks in his gut. Asterisk. He let out a shaky exhale, fingers tangling in Jungkook's hair again to pull him back, looking into that dark gaze through hooded eyelashes with a smirk that was part challenge, part surrender. "Prove it." Way Jimin's hands tugged him in, the raw heat in his eyes, the way he met Jungkook's gaze unafraid and defiant. It was the final straw. The last shred of self-control snapped, and he crushed their lips together hard enough to bruise. A brutal, possessive kiss that was all teeth and hunger and desperation, his hands sliding to grip Jimin's thighs and hoist him up. Asterisk. He backed him up against the wall, pinning him there with the weight of his body. Asterisk. Asterisk. Jimin let out a ragged moan as he was hoisted up against the wall, legs automatically wrapping around Jungkook's waist to pull him closer, his hands tangled in his hair, holding on for dear life as he kissed back just as fiercely, teeth sinking into Jungkook's lower lip. Asterisk, he moved against him, desperately, body arching into the heat of his touch, his head falling back against the wall. With a sharp gasp, Jungkook, asterisk, asterisk, his voice was a ragged, breathless whisper, thick with want, asterisk, asterisk, need you now. Asterisk, a low growl rumbled from Jungkook's throat at those words, his hands sliding up Jimin's thighs to press him harder against the wall. The need in the other man's voice, the way he moved against him, desperate and wanting, set his body on fire, his own breath growing ragged as he kissed a trail down Jimin's neck, nipping and sucking at the sensitive skin on his throat. Asterisk, his hands moved to the waistband of Jimin's pants, slipping beneath the fabric with a rough tug. Say please. Asterisk, Jimin let out a sharp, punched-out moan as Jungkook's fingers slid under his waistband, so close to where he asterisk ached asterisk, his entire body arching into the touch, his nails dug into Jungkook's shoulders, lips parting around ragged breaths. Asterisk, asterisk, F asterisk CK. Asterisk, 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 his hips jerked forward instinctively, chasing the friction. You asterisk, no asterisk, I don't beg, asterisk, but his voice cracked on the last word, betraying him. Asterisk, Jungkook smirked against his throat, cruel, victorious, and pressed down with his thumb, just asterisk, 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 their asterisk, 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 drawing a broken whimper from Jimin's lips. Say it. Jimin's breath hitched. Please. Asterisk, and Jungkook finally, mercifully, gave him what he wanted. Jungkook's grin was pure sin as Jimin finally broke that desperate please, sending a thrill of victory through him. He kissed him deeply, swallowing every ragged moan as his hand moved with ruthless precision, determined to unravel him completely. Good boy. Asterisk, asterisk, he murmured against Jimin's lips, feeling him tremble in his arms. Now come for me. Asterisk. And when Jimin shattered against him, back arched, fingers clawing at his shoulders, Jungkook drank in the sight like a man starved, because this was better than any war they'd ever won. Asterisk at that praise, spoken in a rough, throaty whisper against his lips, Jimin let out a broken moan, a sound somewhere between surrender and victory, drowning out the ragged gasps that left him. As Jungkook brought him over the edge with the practiced ease of someone who knew him, his body, his desires, more intimately than anyone else. Asterisk, when the tremors finally subsided, he slumped against Jungkook, chest heaving with ragged breaths, body boneless. Asterisk, Boz, asterisk Ard, he muttered. Asterisk Jungkook chuckled darkly, smug satisfaction seeping through him as Jimin's body slumped against him, completely boneless and wrecked. The sight was too perfect. Those red, kiss-swollen lips, that messy hair, skin marked with his touch. And it took all he had not to kiss him silly all over again. Asterisk, he pressed a soft kiss to Jimin's forehead, an oddly tender gesture in their midst of all this rough passion, and murmured against his skin, asterisk, you love me anyway. Asterisk Jimin huffed out a laugh that was half exasperated, half amused, the sound soft and rough in Jungkook's ear. His fingers lazily traced idle patterns across the other man's back, skin still buzzing from the aftershocks of pleasure, his head resting in the crook of Jungkook's shoulder. I must be crazy to put up with all your bullshit. Asterisk, 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 he muttered, though there was no real irritation in his voice, only fondness. Asterisk, Jungkook smirked at the sound of that familiar, raspy laugh, and the way it made his chest feel almost warm. Jimin's soft, gentle touches against his skin made something inside him ache for more, but he just tightened his grip on the man in his arms, like he was afraid he'd disappear if he let go for even a second. Asterisk, his eyes darkened at Jimin's muttered remark, and he bit down lightly on his neck again, just hard enough to leave a fresh mark. You call it bullshit. I call it keeping things interesting. Asterisk Jimin let out a soft gasp at the sharp nip against his neck, the sensation sending a shiver through him. He rolled his eyes at that asterisk Kai reply, a smirk tugging at his lips. Is that what we're calling it now? Interesting. Asterisk, he couldn't help but chuckle at that. A sound that was half exasperated, half fond. He pinched Jungkook's side playfully. I call it you being a damn menace. Asterisk, Jungkook let out a low, mock-offended huff at that. That pouty expression of his was almost convincing, but the glimmer in his eyes betrayed his amusement. Me a menace? Asterisk, he echoed in a faux scandalized tone, one arm tightening around Jimin's waist, the other sliding up to trace a thumb over his jawline. Baby, that hurts. I'm a goddamn angel. Asterisk, Jimin had to bite back a snort at that declaration. Jungkook, an angel. That was the funniest lie he'd heard all year. He met the other man's gaze with a raised eyebrow, lips curling into a smile that was half smug, half amused. Yeah, if you're counting the number of times you've nearly given me a damn heart attack. Maybe asterisk, he retorted, eyes sparkling with a mixture of mockery and affection. In which case, you're the goddamn devil reincarnated. Jian. Asterisk, the way Jimin's lip curled into that half-smug, half-amused smile. Damn. Jungkook loved that smile. It did things to him, made something fierce and possessive flare up inside him. Asterisk, he hummed at that retort, his finger tracing the sharp line of Jimin's jaw, the gesture deceptively gentle, almost loving. Baby, if I was the devil reincarnated, you'd be on your knees for me, even more often than you already are. Jimin's breath caught at that low, almost growl, his heart beating faster at the possessive gleam in Jungkook's gaze. Those calloused fingers tracing over his skin should not have had such a damn effect on him, but damn it, they did. He let out a scoff, more to cover up the way his body reacted than anything else, and gave Jungkook a defiant look. Oh, please, he chuckled, voice dripping with skepticism. Don't flatter yourself. I would never be on my knees for you. Jungkook's smirk deepened at Jimin's blatant lie, because they both knew damn well how often Jimin had ended up on his knees for him and how much he loved it. His fingers tangled in Jimin's hair, tugging just enough to tilt his head back and expose his throat. Really? Asterisk, his voice dripped with dark amusement as he leaned in, lips brushing Jimin's ear. Then, why does your pulse skip every time I tell you to kneel. Asterisk, his free hand slid down Jimin's chest, slow and deliberate, stopping just above his belt. Want me to prove it again? Asterisk, Jimin's breath hitched at the rough whisper against his ear, the possessive gleam in Jungkook's eyes sending a jolt of heat through him. Damn, he was going to be the death of him. He tilted his head back, exposing his throat further, and let out a breathless whisper of a laugh. You're a goddamn menace. Asterisk, he repeated, voice rough with want, as he arched into Jungkook's touch. He knew the other man was right. He was already halfway gone for him. And they'd barely begun. Prove it. Didn't hesitate. He never did when it came to Jimin. His grip tightened in Jimin's hair, yanking his head back, with just enough force to make him gasp, as he crushed their lips together in a searing kiss, all teeth and claiming tongue, stealing the breath from his lungs. His free hand made quick work of Jimin's belt buckle, fingers slipping beneath fabric with ruthless efficiency, before wrapping around him in one firm stroke. Jimin arched off the wall with a ragged cry, fingers clawing at Jungkook's shoulders, as pleasure burned through him, white hot and relentless. Jungkook smirked against his mouth, grip tightening just shy of painful. Say my name when you come. And Jimin. He obeyed. Asterisk, Jimin was drowning in the heat, the pleasure, the overwhelming need that seared through him. Jungkook's touch was the only thing anchoring him, an intoxicating blend of rough possession and gentle care. The way he took control, the way he owned him. He was the goddamn definition of sinful, and Jimin could never get enough of him. Asterisk, with each firm stroke, each possessive kiss, each sharp gasp, Jimin's world narrowed down to one name, falling from his lips like a ragged plea, a broken promise of belonging. He was Jungkook's. Asterisk, each time Jimin repeated his name like a prayer, Jungkook could feel his own control slip a little further, his heart fluttering like a damn fool, hearing that soft, wrecked voice gasping, moaning, whispering his name like it was the only thing that mattered, was more addictive than any drug, more powerful than any high, more intense than any victory he'd ever won. It made him feel like a damn god. It made him want to claim him, possess him, mark him with his teeth, his touch, his very soul, so no one would ever doubt who he belonged to. Asterisk, as the aftershocks rippled through him, Jimin sagged against Jungkook, breathing ragged and uneven. In that moment, he was raw, both inside and out, vulnerable and exposed, the usual armor of sass and sarcasm stripped away like a damn peeled orange. Jungkook had reduced him to this trembling, unguarded mess, the way he always managed to, and he didn't even have the strength to complain about it right then. Asterisk, his voice was rough, hoarse with desire when he spoke, and there was a hint of pleading underneath. Bed now. Asterisk, Jungkook's eyes darkened at that rough, wrecked voice. The way Jimin said that one word sent a jolt of heat through him. He wrapped an arm around Jimin's waist, lifting him off the wall like he weighed nothing, carrying him towards the bed with an ease that was damn near effortless. He dropped Jimin onto the sheets with a firm but not painful motion, crawling on top of him with a smirk. Eager, are we? Asterisk, he teased with a sharp bite to Jimin's lower lip, one hand already working on the buttons of his shirt. Asterisk, Jimin arched under him with a breathless laugh, fingers already tugging impatiently at Jungkook's belt buckle, his earlier exhaustion forgotten under the renewed heat of Jungkook's touch. Less talking, he gasped out between biting kisses. More fuking, asterisk, the rest of his demand was swallowed by Jungkook's mouth. As their clothes finally hit the floor, skin against skin, fire against fire, their world narrowed to nothing but the two of them. And if Jimin screamed Jungkook's name loud enough to wake the neighbors, well, that was just revenge for all his teasing. Scene fades to black as tangled limbs, muffled curses, and breathless laughter blend together. The only evidence of their passion, the marks left on skin and the wrecked sheets beneath them. And if the walls shook a little, nobody had to know. Asterisk later, when their breathing had returned to normal, and they were both too satisfied to move, Jungkook had Jimin tucked into his body like a damn koala, face buried in Jimin's hair, arms wrapped around him like he was holding onto the most treasure he owned. Asterisk Jimin was still dazed and wrecked, eyes half-lidded, lips curled in a sleepy smile. He was a mess of bite marks and flushed skin, and Jungkook loved the way he looked right then, all soft and relaxed, the usual sharp edges softened by the afterglow of pleasure. Asterisk, Jungkook ran one hand through Jimin's mussed hair, the other tracing idle patterns over his back, the touch almost lazy in its tenderness. He felt a sense of deep satisfaction as his eyes roved over Jimin's wrecked form, marking the way his body was still trembling in the aftermath, the possessive pride flaring up again. His fingers traced over the bite marks, a reminder that he'd marked Jimin as his own. "You're a damn mess," he murmured, voice low and rough. "And I've made you even messier." Asterisk Jimin chuckled softly, the sound a low, breathless rasp, the last vestiges of breathlessness still lingering in his voice. That comment earned Jungkook a half-assed slap against his chest. "You did that on purpose, you menace," he mumbled back, shifting a little to bury his face further into the crook of Jungkook's neck. He didn't even have the energy to pretend to be annoyed, the sleepy satisfaction in his voice clear. "I'm gonna look like a damn leopard tomorrow." Asterisk Jungkook let out a low chuckle at that, the possessive part of him preening at the very thought of Jimin's skin being covered in marks that he'd put there, of Jimin waking up tomorrow with the physical reminder of who he belonged to. He pressed a soft kiss to Jimin's hair, fingers tracing over the bite marks again. "You wanted it," he countered with a dark satisfaction, "and we both know you love it." Jimin couldn't argue there. Jungkook was right. Damn the boss, asterisk ard. He loved being marked by him like this, a physical reminder of their passion, their connection. The evidence of the night's activities would linger on his body like a brand, a claim that spoke more loudly than words ever could. Asterisk, his breath hitched as Jungkook's fingers traced over a particularly sensitive mark on his collarbone, a shiver running through him as his body betrayed him. Yet again, "Shut up, asterisk, asterisk," he groaned. Asterisk a low, dark laugh rumbled in Jungkook's chest at Jimin's muttered retort, his eyes darkening with satisfaction as he felt the shiver of response travel through the other man's body. It was an instinctive reaction, and it only fueled the possessive streak in him even further. Asterisk, His fingers paused at the mark, pressing down just enough to make Jimin gasp again. Asterisk, you keep telling me to shut up, but your body says otherwise. Asterisk, 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 he growled, low and dark. It's begging for me to keep going. Asterisk, Jimin groaned again at those words, part in frustration and part in need. The way Jungkook's voice went all rough and dark was like a switch, stirring that familiar heat in his gut, making him want to both punch him and kiss him senseless at the same time. You're insufferable. Asterisk, he muttered, his voice a low, frustrated rasp, his own hands coming up to clutch at Jungkook's shoulders. Asterisk, you know damn well what you do to me. Asterisk, a slow smirk crept across Jungkook's lips at Jimin's frustrated words, his hands tightening just slightly on Jimin's waist. He knew exactly what he was doing. He asterisk, liked asterisk, seeing Jimin all flushed and frustrated, all needy and breathless in his arms. It was a sight only he got to see, a secret pleasure that set his blood on fire. And you love it. Asterisk, he growled in return, his voice dark and rough. You love how I make you lose control. Admit it. Asterisk, Jimin let out another sharp, frustrated huff, his fingers digging into Jungkook's shoulders, almost bruisingly. He knew he was caught. He could deny it all he wanted, but the way his body ached with need, the way it responded so willingly to Jungkook's touch, it was a dead giveaway. He let out a low moan as those possessive hands tightened around his waist, a sound that sounded close to surrender, then protest. You goddamn Bess, asterisk Ard, he gritted out. You know I do. Asterisk a low, satisfied hum rumbled in Jungkook's chest at those words, dark triumph and pleasure flaring up in his eyes. He knew he was getting Jimin right where he wanted, that he was slowly wearing him down, pulling down the last of that stubborn resistance that Jimin still tried to cling to. His grip on Jimin's waist tightened even further, pulling him impossibly closer until their bodies were pressed flush against each other. Say it, he commanded with a low growl. Admit who you belong to. Asterisk, Jimin's breath caught at that dark, possessive command, his body shuddering against Jungkook's, his defenses crumbling even further at the possessive tone, the way Jungkook was looking at him, the way he was holding him. He was powerless to resist. Everything about him, in that moment, screamed dominance and control, and God help him, but he loved it. Yours, he whispered, his voice a ragged groan. You goddamn boss, asterisk Ard, I'm yours. Jungkook's breath hitched at those words, raw, broken, asterisk honest, asterisk, and for a split second, his carefully crafted mask of smug arrogance cracked. His grip on Jimin tightened, almost desperately, fingers pressing into his skin, like he could fuse them together through sheer willpower. Damn right you are, he growled, voice rough with something deeper than lust, something terrifyingly close to devotion, asterisk, before crashing their lips together in a kiss that tasted like victory and surrender all at once. And if Jimin felt Jungkook's hands tremble against his back, that secret stayed between them and the crumpled sheets beneath their tangled limbs. The morning light seeped through the curtains, casting golden streaks across tangled limbs and rumpled sheets. Jimin stirred first, blinking awake to find Jungkook's arm draped heavily over his waist, face buried in the crook of his neck, like a damn, overgrown house cat. His lips twitched into a sleepy smirk. "I'm still here." Jungkook's voice is gravel rough with sleep, fingers flexing against Jimin's hip, like he's checking he's real. Jimin huffs a laugh, turning to bury his face against Jungkook's throat. "Unfortunately, yeah," he rasped, voice hoarse from last night's activities. "You're crushing me, you giant puppy." Jungkook only grunted in response, tightening his grip and nuzzling deeper against Jimin's throat with a sleepy, possessive growl. And Jimin, he just sighed and carded fingers through his hair, because some battles weren't worth fighting. "Fine, 5 more minutes." The soft kiss Jungkook pressed to his pulse. That was victory enough. Jungkook's chest rumbled in approval at that whispered acquiescence, his arm tightening over Jimin's waist almost possessively as he inhaled his scent, fingers tracing idle patterns over his skin. For a few moments, they lay there in a comfortable silence, the morning sunlight gradually bathing the room in a soft golden glow. Then, with a low sigh, he lifted his head slightly, propping himself up on one elbow to look down at Jimin with a lazy smirk. "You look wrecked." Jimin rolled his eyes at that comment, a scoff escaping his lips. He shifted a little, the movement bringing attention to the various bite marks and bruises that now covered his neck and collarbones. "See, I wonder whose fault that is," he retorted, sarcasm dripping from every syllable. "I couldn't possibly guess who was leaving hickeys all over me like a damn vampire all night." A low chuckle rumbled in Jungkook's chest at that reply, his smirk widening as he took in the array of marks on Jimin's skin. The possessive part of him couldn't help but feel a deep sense of satisfaction at the sight, seeing clear evidence of his claim on the other man. He raised a finger, gently tracing one of the particularly dark bruises on Jimin's throat. "Can't help it," he murmured. "You just look too damn good with my marks all over you." Jimin let out an exasperated laugh at that possessive comment, his eyes narrowing in mock annoyance, but the warmth in his gaze betrayed the fact that he secretly loved that possessiveness, the way Jungkook seemed to take such satisfaction in marking him as his. "You can be such a caveman sometimes." He muttered, a hint of fond affection slipping through his sarcastic tone. "I feel like I should start charging you for all the hickeys you left." Jungkook's smirk widened at that sassy retort, his gaze roaming over Jimin's marked skin with possessive pride. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a low, possessive purr. "Oh, but you don't understand," he replied. "These aren't just hickeys. They're a sign of ownership." He ran a teasing finger over a particularly dark bruise on Jimin's collarbone, his gaze glittering with mischief. "You're mine to mark as much as I want, and everyone should know it." Jimin rolled his eyes dramatically, but the soft curve of his lips betrayed his amusement, and perhaps a hint of secret pleasure. With a theatrical sigh, he reached up to flick Jungkook's forehead lightly. "Ya, Jian Jungkook, if you're going to keep treating me like your personal chew toy, at least take me to breakfast first next time." Jungkook caught his wrist midair, pressing a slow, deliberate kiss to his palm before locking their fingers together. His smirk softened into something warmer, something real. Fine, asterisk, asterisk, he conceded. But only if you wear a turtleneck, because those marks aren't for sharing. And as Jimin's laughter filled the morning air, bright and unguarded, Jungkook knew no victory had ever tasted sweeter.